So what are you called to be? What are we called to be? It's such a good question, isn't it? And we don't often ask it. Last week, Reverend Chris Jackson was here. Thank you, Reverend Chris Jackson. He's amazing. And he gave us a beautiful spiritual lesson to incubate with and to take into consideration on how we can expand our consciousness, how we can grow ourselves. And the last sermon that I gave was about being extremists for love, about expanding our consciousness and even taking our spiritual practice onto the road. Like, who experiences some interesting energy on the road these days? Like, every time you get on the road, do you feel like you get some violence, some anger, some aggression, right? And it's so tempting to just back. But can we take even that as a spiritual practice? Can we take even that as a presencing, a space to learn more compassion, a space to engage in the practice of blessing someone and going like, wow, what would it feel like to have that much anger at just a random person that you don't know, or a person that made a simple mistake? And when people do things, can I go, yeah, I do really dumb things driving sometimes too. And like, I hope for a little grace. Or can we sit there and look at that person and go, maybe that, like in one scenario, that's my mother, or that's my sister, or that's my brother, or that's my friend, or maybe that person just lost someone, or whatever it is. I don't even need to understand their story. What is it in me that needs to justify something so I know something about them? The question is, am I willing to be an extremist for love? The question is, am I willing to put something into this that because this passed by my space, because this person drove by my car, because this person rammed into me, whatever it is, because it came into my awareness and my space, it will be treated differently than it will if it did not come into my space. And I'm going to consciously step into that as an extremist for love. I'm going to consciously step into that. And then we take that analogy and we bring it to everything in our lives, right? And of course, we have to have a spiritual practice in order to do this, because it's like being a parent without getting good rest. Forget it, hun. If you don't get a good sleep, you are going to have a misbehaving child the next day, period. Not because your child changed, but because, honey, there wasn't enough in here to see it differently and to bring something else to the table, right? And that's the same thing with being an extremist for love. We have no hope unless we have a deep spiritual practice. Martin Luther King knew that in Letter to Birmingham Jail. We're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about, the very beginning line in that letter, which is just so much. There's so much there. He goes into saying, like, I wouldn't normally even address things that are criticisms of me and my work because I have to focus on my work. I have to focus on what I'm going to do, but I'm going to take a second with you because I'm going to go there, and I don't want to go there yet. I'm going to go there next week, but I'm going to take a second with you because I think that there can be an impact here. So I'm going to give you a few words. But that man had a spiritual practice that could carry himself through these times, right? That beam himself up, ground himself so that he can be present, so he can be an extremist for love in a time of hate. Now, what if he had been a moderate for love? Mildly loving, mildly conscious, mildly pushing the envelope, mildly bringing people and calling people higher, saying, you might be better than that, or we could kind of do better than that, rather than going, you're better than that. We are better than this. Are you ready to be an extremist for love? That line comes from Letter from a Birmingham Jail, when he is considered an extremist by those colleagues of his that are saying, you're pushing it too far. Like, this is just too much. And so he goes on to disputing the idea of being an extremist because he generally considered himself a moderate. But then he goes back and says, I am an extremist for love. And here's the question that he leaves us with. King addressed the accusation in the civil rights movement of being extreme, and he leaves us with this question. Jesus and the other great reformers were extremists, so the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for hate or love? Now, you could say there are other options. You could just be the moderate for either of them, right? Just like, hey, let me just slide in the middle. Let me just stay out of the conflict. Let me just back up and make space. That's not mine to stand for. Is that what we're called to be? That's not aliveness, right? We all know what it feels like in life when we're just going with the flow, when we're not aligned with our true purpose and our true power and our true vision. And yes, it takes courage and it is uncomfortable, isn't it? It is terribly uncomfortable. But the funny thing is, like, these bodies are going to be gone someday. These bodies are going to be gone. There is nothing to protect. There is nothing to keep safe. You might as well live with it all out there. We might as well go for it because we are here in this time and space for a reason, and there is nothing to protect. So rather than staying in the middle and making sure we don't step on too many toes, go for it. Become alive. My favorite, and I say this a lot, Howard Thurman said, don't ask the world what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Well, what the world needs is also extremists for love. So how can we each work our edge with that? How can we each push ourselves to the next level? I am a yoga practitioner, and one of the things in yoga is one of my favorite instructors would always say, work your edge. Work your edge. So when you're in a yoga class, what working your edge means is that when you get on the mat, you are with yourself on the mat, and bring yourself to your limit. And you, only you know what that is. You, only you know what being an extremist for love is. You, only you know the places where you close your heart and just go, but not there. That's too much forgiveness. That's 70 times 7, and I don't have that in me. I got maybe 6 on the forgiveness scale. Well, that's other. That's not like me, so that doesn't get included in my circle. Or that hurt me so much, and I'm so uncomfortable with being vulnerable that I'm going to withhold my love right now. I am going to withdraw my love because I have something to protect, right? This body being called me in this time and space on this little planet, spinning through the galaxies at, I think, 1,000 miles an hour. I tried to calculate that this morning with a beloved. Not for today's talk, just for random thinking in the morning. Like how my little one said to me, she said, so we're spinning, and so why if we're spinning, do I not feel like I'm moving? And I was like, oh, there are a lot of things happening that we can't tell are happening. There are a lot of things happening. You are spinning, folks. There's so much more to each moment that meets the eye. And can we get into that? Can we recognize that? Can we realize that these bodies in this time and space have nothing to protect? We're not here to protect a separate sense of self and keep her safe, keep her whatever it is. We're here to be emanations of the Most High. We're here to be emanations of the divine. We're here to fully embody and metabolize love. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, called love the harmonizing faculty. That means we're here to metabolize harmonizing, not separating, not going not me, not going other, not going I can't go there, not going it takes too much, but working our edge, really working our edge. And part of that means getting into alignment. You know, there's something in yoga where this working your edge idea, it's like you're on your mat and you're working with you. It's not about what anyone else is doing. It's not about how stretchy is the person next to you, how wobbly am I, but it's about me on my mat and going to where I can go today. Sometimes that might mean backing off a little bit. Sometimes that might mean being gentle with myself. Sometimes working my edge is the opposite of what my mind could think it is. And it's not about just sweating my booty off in that hot yoga class, but it's about just breathing in and taking care of myself, noticing where my energy is. And sometimes it's about pushing. It's about pushing a little harder than I think I could go. But one thing it's always about is alignment. I'm going to take off my boots because I know it's going to be bad if I don't take off my boots. But there's a practice, and you can see when people are new to yoga, they do it. But when you're doing a posture in yoga, you get aligned first, right? So you get alignment. And then if you're having a good teacher and you're a good practitioner, you listen to that, and you might just stay right there, right? You might just stay right there. But a lot of times we'll stretch ourselves and we'll keep going. How far can I go? Now, does that look good? Oh, did I just show off? Looks kind of good, right? Here's the thing about that posture. about that posture. When you do that posture, when you're really doing it in a class, you breathe into that posture. And as you're going, you check into your alignment. So you bring your hips forward. You kick your leg back, and you kick, and you press, and you kick, and you work your edge. But I can get out of alignment, and in 2 seconds, when I get out of alignment, guess what I can do? I can go so much farther. But that's out of alignment. So it can look good on the outside. But the truth is, all I can do, as far as I can go, is this, where my hips are facing forward in the direction that my energy is moving, where my shoulders back. All these subtle adjustments that a good teacher that can tell you what you're doing can tell you about, so that you can have alignment. And that's where it is. That's a key, alignment. I just put my shoe on the opposite foot. And I actually started off today with 2 different socks that did not match. And it didn't matter. I didn't even think about taking off my shoes today, but I could feel the difference. I could feel that one had ribs and the other one didn't. And I thought, that's going to take my mind out of the space and into my socks. It's not in alignment with where I want my energy this morning. But alignment is so key. Because there are these subtle shifts, these subtle things about ourselves that have to be in order, have to be aligned with God, have to be aligned with love. And a lot of times we don't address those. We think I'm an extremist for love, or I'm a loving person, or I am a spiritual person, and I'm going to be in that space. But what are the little things in me? What are those little subtle adjustments where it's like, oh, except for here, there, in that way I'm not really in alignment. Because I really judge that. Or that's a never ever for me. No, thank you. I'm not in the space of love here or there. So staying in alignment with our deepest intention, staying in alignment with love, is a deep practice that can bring us to our edge. And unless we've probably lifted off already into our embodied highest state, we probably have work to do. Probably somewhere on your mat, you can work your edge. And it might be just stepping back a little bit and making a slight adjustment, going like, I thought I was there in this department, but I could just shift this and realize I have a little more work to do. And what can happen when we work our edge? We come alive, come alive. Places where our lives may have seemed dull or lifeless, lacking color and vibrancy, all of a sudden have a spark of fire to them. There's something exciting. Spaces where we pushed ourselves and challenged ourselves invite new dimensions of life experience that would not have otherwise been expressed or experienced. I was out at a restaurant a while ago, and every once in a while I get frisky. I am a little bit of an introvert. I'm quite an introvert, but then sometimes I can have this personality side of mine come out that, is very, very comfortable. And she's fun when she comes out. She doesn't like being around a lot, but when she does come out, she's super fun. And so I was out to eat, and there was a couple sitting down, and they had a little one that just looked like a love. And so I said to my friend that I was with, I said, I'm going to go to the restroom. When I come back, I want you to introduce us to those people there so we can be friends, because it looks like I want to be friends with them. And this friend that I was with is usually very, will talk to anyone, anytime, and has had dinner at every single human's house that I know. And so I was like, go do that. Go make some friends. And I came out from the restroom, and there's standing there, and I'm trying to think if they were even talking. I don't know. But I said, did you make friends yet? Did you? No. And I almost left. And then I was like, just do it, Erin. Just do it. And I just started talking and introduced our little ones that are about the same age and engaged their little one, and then just said, out of nowhere, random lady at a restaurant, we should get together sometime with the girls, right? And we have. Since then, we've gotten together twice, and it's so much fun. It's so odd, and I could have passed that moment by. Right? Just these little things. I was driving just yesterday, and there was a car coming into the parking lot and parking as I was leaving the parking lot. And I'm not a vehicle person at all. But this was, a nice car. And then I don't even know what kind of car it was. I don't even know if it was light or dark. But what I noticed about this car with these funky wheels, like funky tires. I don't even know how to say it, if it's a tire or wheel. It was really both. And they were just cool. They were like out of a Tron movie or something. Like, I think they had red, but they were like these metal spokes and then a really thin tire. And I just like looked at them and marveled at them for a second and was like, I'm not a car person. Like, it takes a lot. You could have a very fancy car, right? And I care less. But I'm like looking at these tires like, now that's creative. Like, that's cool. Like, I would like that person to be like guiding all of the car manufacturers to make fun cars. So anyway, these silly things that you feel yourself feeling. And I thought, I'm going to tell that person, I'm going to tell that person. So, and that person is kind of looking at me, looking at their tires, and I'm pulling out of the parking. So this person just parked, and I'm pulling out, so I'm leaving. So I'm watching if there's anyone behind me, because I'm going to get a honk in a second. But I'm just looking at this. So I unroll my window, and we catch each other's glance. And I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I have no idea, right? Until the window rolls down, gorgeous African-American woman, kind of middle age, and kind of leans into me. And I said, your tires, they're just awesome. Like, what is that? And she goes, I custom designed them myself. And I was like, oh, yeah. And we just had this moment together, right? We had this moment together. And like, I wanted to say a lot more. I wanted to be like, you need to like call these car companies and then get in with them, because that might be the key to like having, well, this is just going to sound so sexist, but having women like me like cars. Like, if you were designing them, I think I'd want. But I just wanted to give her acknowledgement. And we just had this like burst of love moment, right? And then, I rolled up the window and drove away. But as I was rolling up my window and driving away, when you can just feel it with someone, with another person? And I've had this on a walk where I just say a little hi. And it's like there was a lot of me just going, wait, can I get your number? We should be friends. Right? Have you felt that? Have you felt that? But what do? We go, that was already weird enough what I just did. And so I'm not going to be a bigger weirdo. But I drove away with a sense that I just let go of a possible super cool friend. Now, granted, this woman, you're all going to like see her around. You'll be like, hey, you designed those tires. We talked about it in church. And she wants to be friends with you. Come with me next time because you need to. No, maybe. Cross my fingers. There is hell around us all the time. And we can choose to look at it, and we can choose to focus on it. Or we can choose to add it to our prayer list and choose to dedicate our energy to extreme love. Because there is heaven around us all the time as well. All the time. And there are things in each second that we can choose and we can step into, and they may seem so small or so trite that we may not lean into them. I also had a little intuition after going to my yoga classes. I thought to myself, this yoga teacher, this woman that's running this studio, I thought I should invite her here because what she just gave is a unity talk. I should invite her here. But I didn't want to she probably has her own spiritual practice and it's probably not unity. I don't want to scare her. I don't want to be offensive. But who am I to limit that? Who am I to limit the still small voice and that intuitive notion within me that says, be an extremist for love? Who am I to worry about being rejected? Who am I to try to protect what? My ego? Rejection? What? What am I trying to protect? Can I go there? Can I go there? There's another yoga teacher who's a man, like kind of middle-aged man, and I've thought to myself, I should ask him if he wants to get coffee or tea. He's in a relationship, it's not like that. But ask if he gets coffee to tea, because just reading a little bit about his bio and stuff, I thought, This is someone I should know. And also hearing how he talks, it's like this is someone who would be running a unity. And like being in this time and space and where we are, I should make the connection. Because as adults, like when was the last time you made a new friend? Like made a real good friend. When was the last time you randomly like got together with someone that you don't know that well and expanded your circle, included someone else into your life? We get these nudges, don't we, if we listen to them? And it may not be in the form I'm talking about today. You may have something else going on that you know about. It may be about forgiveness. It may be about your work life. It may be about your creativity. Whatever it is, you fill in the blank. But there is something, and something is speaking to you saying, work your edge. Because heaven is right here, right now. Are you bringing it? Alignment, adjustment, invitation, risk. I always say that the acronym for risk is releasing insecurity for spiritual knowing. Are we able to discern the difference in us when it comes to those nudges in life, moving us forward? Inviting us into the kingdom, the queendom, the heaven. Kathy Overman said, your nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. Your nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. So which is in charge in your life? Your nervous system or your source? Namaste. So let's take a moment to breathe into a meditation. To just breathe in. Allow ourselves the time and the space to just metabolize what is here for us today. What's been given in this sanctuary among us. What came through you today. Because you can't receive anything that doesn't come through you. Our hearts awaken when something touches our hearts, but in order to touch our hearts, it's like a tuning fork. It's not something new that's offered. It's something that's remembered. So acknowledge the tuning fork within this room, within the virtual sanctuary, within your home, within and among each one of us. We are spinning in space, going so many miles an hour, yet not moving at all. It is mystical, it is majestic. And there is so much all around us and within us. So we speak to that sweet self within that experiences fear, limits, lack of courage, that experiences aloneness. And we say, sweet one, work your edge with me. You are not here to be mild or moderate. You are extreme love. Align with that. Sig Paulson says, as love takes over in your mind and heart, you find more and more opportunities for it to operate. Strangers will come up to you and begin to empty their hearts and their minds. Old friends will detect a new dimension in you, even if they do not comment on it. Even the plants and animals in your life will respond to what is taking place in you. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. It is safe to lean into extreme love, not for the body or even the mind, but for the soul. And the soul is the seat of the real self. Inhaling and exhaling, we unleash our love in extreme ways. We include where we are tempted to exclude or separate. We forgive and send love where it wasn't earned and may not seem warranted. And we go to places and spaces where we are nudged and called. And we expand. Expand into extreme love. Be that in me that knows this is my true purpose and my divine destiny. Let me live unleashed, unencumbered by the limits of the time or my mind. Drawing the attention to the heart center as if inhaling and exhaling through the heart itself, breathing into coherence, letting this ground into our body temples in such a deep way that our nervous system is refreshed, retaught, realigned. Understanding that we're here to work the edge, to walk the talk, to say yes to the divine invitation. And if you choose, bring your hands together at the heart center. as if inhaling and exhaling through the heart and the hands of prayer. And as you choose, bringing the hands of prayer to the third eye. By the power of this practice, may all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know that we're born blessed and we're here to be a blessing. May all beings know God as love and themselves as emanations of this love. In gratitude for this practice and the time and the form we give this life. Namaste.